welcome to Mr. Nelson's YouTube video. Alright, so what we learned today in class was we learned the mustache rule, which is changing a decimal to a percent and a percent to decimal. Alright, so right here we have our mustache rule. If you look, we've got lots and lots of information on this page. Okay, we've got changing a decimal to percent, you move to the right, and changing a percent to a decimal, you move to the left. Alright, when you move to the right, when you're changing a decimal to a percent, remember to add the percent sign. Okay, and when you're changing a percent to a decimal, remove the percent sign. Okay, remove the percent sign. Alright, so let's look at some examples that we did today in class. Alright, here's decimal to percent. So we remember we need to move to the right. Okay, and we add a percent sign. So as you look at the bottom here, we added a percent sign each time. Alright, so we started with 2 35/100ths. And we said we need to move it 2 times to the right because that makes it look like a mustache, and we add the percent sign, okay, to give us 235%. Then we've got 3/1000ths, and we know we need to use the mustache and move that decimal 2 times to the right, and we get 3/10 a percent. 3/10 a percent. So you can see right here is where your decimal point is when you move it 2 times. Okay. Then we had some examples dealing with percent to decimal. Okay. Percent to decimal. And with percent to decimal, you move to the left. Okay, you move that decimal point to the left. Okay, alright, so we start with 3/10 a percent, and that's just like the last one, but now we're changing it back to a decimal. And you can see here we move 2 to the right to make that mustache, and we end up with 3/1000ths. Okay, you can see the move to the left. Okay, alright, now when we've got 354%, first off we need to say, where's my decimal start at? And if you look down on the example, it starts right there at the end. So if you do not see a decimal, know that it starts on the right side, behind the very last number. Only if you don't see a decimal. Okay, then we know we have to move to the left when we're converting a percent to a decimal. So we move it 2 times to the left to make the mustache. And if you look right here, your answer ends up being 3/5400ths, or 3.54. Okay. The last thing we went over is kind of a wrap up of what we did this week, and it's that what we did was we found equivalent forms of fractions, decimals, and percents. And we have to use our strategies to find those 3 different forms: fractions, decimals, and percents. Okay? For fractions, to go from here to here, we did nerd and donkey. To go from decimals to percents, we did the mustache rule. Right? To go from decimals to fractions, we did 3 steps. The 3 steps were: write the number again without the decimal, put it over the place value. So whatever your place value for the number you had originally, put the place value underneath the number without the decimal, and 3 was to simplify. Okay, simplify. And then to go from percent to decimal, we use the same mustache rule. Okay. And if you needed to go from percent to fraction, you could by going from percent to decimal and then decimal to fraction. Okay. There's other ways you can do that as well, but that's the way that you should know how to do it. Okay. And that's the end of Mr. Nelson's video for tonight. Shout out to, in my very first period, I want to shout out to Armando, because while I was walking down the hall, he waved at me from his art class. And in class today, he was definitely a leader in the group that he was in. He was definitely doing the work that he needed to do to be successful. Shout out to, in my 5-6 period, a shout out to Anave. Anave. She was doing exactly what she needed to do to be successful. She was working hard, and she was always trying to do her best. And in my 7-8 period, I want to shout out to Luis for helping me out, doing what he needs to do, and being successful today.